As I record this opening segment today, police in Los Angeles are clearing out UCLA pro-Hamas protests. We can see an image here of a man being arrested, and there are reports of police firing rubber bullets. We've got videos of the encampment being torn down, police throwing Palestinian flags. It seems like this is the end for the UCLA protests. So we'll cover this. And then, of course, we have last night's passing of the Antisemitism bill. Matt Gaetz, wow, this one's interesting. He defies this. He says it would basically make the Bible illegal. One of the things in this anti-Semitism bill, it's using the IHRA, it's the Holocaust Remembrance Museum. I'm getting their name wrong, but uses their definition of anti-Semitism, one of which says you can't say Jews killed Jesus. You can't claim that Israeli governmental policy is akin to the Nazi policy. It outright is, it's saying your opinion on the policies of Israel are anti-Semitic. And of course, Donald Trump supports this. And there are many Republicans who do. Matt Gaetz, of course, defies this. And he gets, the media is coming after him hard on this one. I'm not necessarily surprised, but we'll break this down. We'll start with what's going on at UCLA with the breaking news. But the first thing I want to say is, while it is being reported definitively by Sky News and many others that rubber bullets are being fired, I do not believe rubber bullets are being fired. Why? I have been personally fired upon with less lethal munitions by California Highway Patrol and LAPD more than once. And I know the weapons that they use. Now, granted, this is 10 years ago. It's been a long time. But based on the videos that we're seeing, which I'll pull up for you, it appears they're using beanbag rounds, although they may actually be firing rubber bullets. The point I want to bring up is that the videos people are showing, it's these orange, less lethal shotguns that fire beanbags, typically, not rubber bullets. However, there is one video showing the police officers holding what I believe it's, I always get the number wrong, but I think it's 44 millimeter expanding foam rounds, commonly referred to as rubber bullets, which I will actually show you an image of because they shot them at me. And I picked one up and I took a picture of it. So here's the breaking news of Sky. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters at UCLA camped out with hard hats, goggles, and respirator masks. Police shown firing rubber bullets at protesters. I don't know that that's true. Arrests began with protesters held with zip ties on their wrists. Bear spray fired to deter police. It's the extremists firing on cops. Police attempting to re-enter the encampment in greater numbers after a temporary retreat. So they say as of 9:04 a.m., which is, you can tell what time I'm recording this, 16 minutes ago, UCLA protest encampment is over. As daylight dawns on LA, the UCLA encampment has ended. A mini village of tents, gazebos, and signs protesting Israel's war in Gaza is now a pile of rubble and debris. Discarded tents and sleeping bags are strewn across the school's Royce Quad, which had been the protesters' home for more than a week. A hardcore of protesters continue to hold out against police and could be heard chanting slogans, repeated calls for the college to divest from its financial interests in Israel. What are their interests? But many have been led away by police, their hands tied behind their backs with, they say, white cable ties. I believe they're talking about the zip ties. So here you can see the photos of the rubble, what's left of this disaster. It looks like a bomb went off. These people have no regard for the environment. There's just garbage strewn everywhere. I got to tell you, man, as someone who's covered a lot of these protests, you come down to these places and you will see the absolute environmental devastation these scumbags bring. They destroy the grass. They leave human waste, trash, garbage, spoiled food. Animals come to eat it. They don't clean it up. It's shockingly offensive. Now, we have this. They say police shown firing rubber bullets at protesters. Footage is now emerging that appears to show police shooting rubber bullets at protesters. A series of videos have been posted online showing officers in riot gear opening fire on demonstrators after tearing down barricades. Fox 11 in LA is among the outlets to have captured the footage, with the reporter Gina Silva heard exclaiming, "Oh my goodness," as shots are being fired by police. They're shooting rubber bullets, she says. Wrong. They're extremely painful. If they hit your arm or leg, they could break your arm. They could kill you. Separate footage posted on X shows an armed officer telling people to move back for their own safety while the police open fire. So let's we'll pull this one up. Okay, so here we go. It says police. This is 4:33 a.m. So this is around 7:30 Eastern time, and you can see it looks like this officer does have rubber bullets And so I don't see him actually opening fire with it. All right, there we go. We'll play this one.
Move back.
Okay, that right there, you see the orange, that's less lethal, typically firing beanbags. I'll show you the specific beanbags they fire. Now this right here, this guy's got, I believe it's 44 millimeters. It's been a long time since I've covered the use of less lethal munitions, but he does not, I mean, did he just fire? He may have fired that. It looks like he did. It's hard to tell. Let's try that one more time. I can't tell if he actually fired or not. Let's see that one more time. I don't think he fired. Looks like he's aiming, but yeah. So that looks like it actually is loaded with an expanding foam round. People call those rubber bullets, but I don't believe that he actually fired. And I know it's a distinction. The police have opened fire with less lethals on the protest here. Halal Flow tweeting this clip from Good Day Los Angeles. I'll play this one for you.
There's a struggle going on over here now, but again,
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
Gina,
this is so dangerous. Again, they're shooting rubber bullets, but I can tell you from doing stories about rubber bullets, they are extremely painful if they hit.
They are likely not firing rubber bullets, and I think it's an important thing to understand. I'll give a shout out to Ryan Riley for this classic from 10 years ago in Ferguson when he posted a picture of earplugs on the ground, and he said, "I believe these are rubber bullets. Can anyone confirm?" Yes, he found earplugs on the ground. Ryan, I'm so sorry that you had no idea what you were doing when you entered a conflict zone and tried to cover it, and Twitter has certainly exposed the editorial failures of these organizations. Now, let me see if I have the photo pulled up. This is an image. That is my hand in this image. Let's open the image in a new tab. This is the expanding foam round in Anaheim, California, which is CHP and Anaheim Police were using these. Now, these are what are ejected there, these big canisters. And I thought I had the photo pulled up. It's really annoying, but I apparently I don't. Or is it actually that I have a story about it? Oh, that's frustrating. I thought I had this pulled up. Let me pull up beanbag round California, show you the beanbag rounds that they use. And, oh, you know what it was? There it is. I do have it pulled up. It's a Washington Post story. Here you go. This is from Washington Post, June 23rd. They say Fairfax police swap shotgun rounds for beanbags, part of national shift. Now, this is not about California. This is Fairfax County. So, yeah, it's Virginia. You can see the orange shotgun with beanbags. I wonder if they have a better image. There you go. This is likely what they are firing at the protesters. They do hurt. They damage the skin. They don't break. Well, they could break the skin depending on, and they can be lethal depending on where you get shot with it. But for the most part, these are less lethal. They're called less lethal because they can kill you. This is what they are firing at the protesters. I think that is a particularly important distinction. It does appear they are armed with these. We call these rubber bullets. Some people call them expanding foam rounds. This may not be an expanding foam. I don't know. That's what the cops told us, actually. And so this is what they're firing at the protesters. I think that's an important distinction. And then, of course, we have photos here. Tenet Media, of course, showing police tear down a Palestinian flag and then throw it. Seems kind of dangerous, but, you know, they're tearing it down. We have this from Andy No. Police, actually, it's from Tenet Media, reposted by Andy No. Police tore down the border walls of the violent Gaza encampment at my alma mater and shut down the occupation after days of violence involving counter-protesters at the camps and the camp's fighting brigade. So here, the cops are tearing the protest apart. And then I think we have this from Anthony Cabasa. UCLA police, CHP riot police broken through, breached the encampment, and people are now being arrested and detained. This is the end of the UCLA encampment. Of course, they're using less lethals, as we've covered. But now on to the bigger picture, I suppose. You know, I don't necessarily care to keep covering, oh, there's protest camps, they're getting shut down again, but it is the breaking news that's happening right now. I'm more interested in talking about what's going on with the anti-Semitism bill. I want to highlight this real quick because there was a tweet that I had pulled up, aside from this one, where the protesters are all praying. But I want to point out, this is a person, they say, Post Millennial says, pro-Palestinian protester prays in front of police at UCLA. No, I believe that's incorrect. Now, I'm not a Muslim. I know not very much. But my understanding, and so correct me if I'm wrong, is that they must pray in accordance with something called a Qibla or direction. I'm again, not an expert, probably getting it wrong. But that is, I'm vaguely familiar with Muslims pray towards Kaaba, towards the mosque. And this is just a person going in front of police and pretending like they're praying. What the activists do is they hold fake prayer, where they will say, we're now going to have our Muslim brothers and sisters pray. Everyone link arms to protect them, as if they're under threat from something. It's performative. It's performative. As an aside, we have this story here. House passes anti-Semitism bill. It's Johnson highlights campus protests. And this is where things get crazy. You know, Donald Trump he went out on, I think I have this tweet here.
When you look at the...
We'll play the full clip in a second. Michael Tracy saying Trump phoned into Hannity's show last night to declare we have to stop the anti-Semitism that's just pervading our country right now. He says the U.S. needs to get the courage to support Israel even more unreservedly. I think Biden is not on the side of Israel. I'll say this, right? I think the anti-Semitism bill is bad. I think it's going to cause problems. And let me pull up the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism so we can go through this and I can break down for you what the problem Matt Gaetz and others have. I think the bill is bad because it makes it so you can't criticize Israel. Here's a story from CNN Politics. The House voted on Wednesday to pass the bipartisan Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, a vote that comes heightened concerns over anti-Semitism, with Israel at war with Hamas, and as pro-Palestinian protests have sprung up on college campuses across the country. Supporters of the legislation say it will help combat anti-Semitism on college, but opponents say it overreaches and threatens to chill free speech. The first thing I'll say is, I would say I probably, when it comes to Israel, I'm like 60-40. 60-40. I look at the polls among like Republicans and you can see the approval, disapproval, and I can see the independents and I can see the Democrats overwhelmingly disapprove of Israel. My attitude is fairly pro-Israel, but I'm not big on foreign spending to support their military or otherwise and why we're involved in this war. I am extremely disapproving of the U.S. invasion of Gaza, which is currently underway with our men and women in uniform under fire, mortar fire already, with the Secretary of Defense saying they may return fire. It is likely, it is probable. That's insane. But look, I think when you look at the politics of the region, you have war. Israel is a country. It exists. People don't like it because it's Israel's formation is in the past 100 years or whatever. And I'm like, don't care. Conquest, colonization, conquering, establishing of lands, all of these things exist. And I'm not interested in being involved. Ron Paul says you can't promise the children of one generation to another. You cannot say in 20 years, our country will defend you, because that's promising children who have not made the choice. And I agree. At the same time, I don't think you can blame the children of the past. So we're here. We're here. Israel exists. I don't know why we are funding it. I mean, what I should say is the U.S. military-industrial complex wants a massive intelligence and security foothold in the region and is willing to defend the interests of a foreign nation to an extreme degree. But the idea that you can't criticize them. Take a look at this. Politico reports Gaetz under fire for defending anti-Semitism vote with anti-Semitic trope. Now, I get offended by this. I'm not even a Christian. Ally of former Speaker Kevin McCarthy called Gaetz an anti-Semite and a pedophile. Look at this. Jeff Miller, a close ally of former Speaker McCarthy, called Gaetz an anti-Semite and pedophile on X. They're going to say in his post, Gaetz said anti-Semitism is wrong, but he said the bill violates the Constitution and common sense with its definition of anti-Semitic language. The bill says the definition of anti-Semitism includes contemporary examples of anti-Semitism. One of those is claims of Jews killing Jesus. The Bible is clear. There is no myth or controversy on this. Therefore, I will not support this bill. Politico says, definitively claims that Jews are responsible for the execution of Jesus by Roman authorities have long been regarded as an anti-Semitic trope and rejected by historians and theologians. That is one of the most insane things I have ever seen, because this is quite literally the story of the Passion of the Christ. The Jewish leaders consider him a blasphemer. I believe it was Pontius Pilate says, you can free one man, Barabbas the murderer or Jesus the blasphemer. And they said the murderer. And the story goes, and it's in the Bible. Matt Gaetz posted the passages. That's just it. Jesus was a Jew, and he was considered to be a blasphemer among Jewish leaders. And the Romans literally put him to death. But the argument is, in the Bible, it says that the Jews killed the Son of God and all of this stuff. Matt Gaetz posted all of this. You know what? I want to make sure I have the passages. I'm going to pull this up just because I didn't actually have it pulled. I'm going to pull it up. I'll pull it up because it's insane. They're saying it is now against the law, a violation of Title IX, to actually say this. So here we go. I have the tweet here from Matt Gaetz. I'm not a Christian, okay? But if the Bible says it, how can you claim it's anti-Semitic? So Christianity is anti-Semitic, I guess. Here it says, be it known to you all, this is Acts 4:10, and to all the people of Israel that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified. Okay. Maybe it's saying to you all, referring to everybody. Fine. It says, Thessalonians, for you suffered the same things from your own countrymen as they did from the Jews who killed both the Lord Jesus and the prophets. It's just in the Bible. You're not allowed to say that. Elise Stefanik voted to pass the Antisemitism Awareness Act. And Donald Trump says we must deal with the anti-Semitism. All right. I'm going to go through the working definition of anti-Semitism. And I'll tell you where I stand on this. Let's start with the first example they give. Calling for, aiding or justifying the killing or harming of Jews in the name of a radical ideology or an extremist view of religion. Completely agree that violates the Civil Rights Act. If our institution, an individual who speaks their mind is allowed. So if someone's on a soapbox, but public accommodations and government institutions should not be able to discriminate on the basis of religion, same as anybody else. Making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews as such, or the power of Jews as a collective, such as especially but not exclusively the myth about a world Jewish conspiracy or of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or social institutions. I view that as much in line with the first one. It's remarkable how people are absolutely obsessed with this idea. I certainly think there are a group of powerful individuals who are Jewish. And then there are the Hasidic Jews who I lived in their neighborhood actually in New York, who were complaining to me about the price of oranges they couldn't afford. And that's why I'm like, that was the argument I had with Kanye, and an argument I have with a lot of people. When Kanye said, who is they though? And I'm just like, dude, powerful, wealthy people who happen to be Jewish, but are probably secular and not even practicing a religion. And then the actual religious Jews. In my neighborhood, I walked into a grocery store and there was a lady being like, the prices of orange, I can't afford it. And I'm like, doesn't sound like all that powerful to me. Accusing Jews of being people responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group. So that's actually what I'm saying. Denying the fact, scope, and mechanisms or intentionally of the genocide of the Jewish people at the hands of National Socialist Germany and its supporters and accomplices during World War II. See, I think the Holocaust was an atrocity, one of the worst things we've seen in human history. I think the Holodomor as well. But I also think people who are questioning the acts of governments in history is very different from attacking the people who are Jewish, right? Look, if you're talking about being racist, I say it's when you have positive or negative discrimination based on race. Anti-Semitic is just a specific word for positive or negative discrimination based on someone being Jewish, religious, or ethnically. And so if someone says your claims about history are anti-Semitic, it's like, I mean, if you're making claims that there's a conspiracy or something among a certain group of people, fine. But if you're just saying, I don't believe the history books, this is where you get weird. But ultimately, I'm not super concerned about that. But it is kind of weird now that they're basically saying at universities with this new bill, denying the Holocaust is now effectively a violation of the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. Did I say 9? It's Title VI. 9 is the gender one. That's where we're getting into weird territory. Accusing Jews or Israel of inventing, exaggerating the Holocaust. Again, like, I don't know why the Israel thing is in there. Certainly, I think accusing a group of people of orchestrating grand conspiracies and lying about history and stuff is, yeah, it's it's negative discrimination based on their religion. Accusing Jewish citizens of being more loyal to Israel or to the alleged priorities of Jews worldwide than the interests of their own nations. Look, man, some people are. There are people who are Iranian and American and the countries don't recognize dual citizenship and they may be more or less aligned with one of the nations. There are people who are Canadian American who like Canada or America better. It's not saying you hate Jews or you're attacking all Jewish people to criticize someone because you think they care more about Israel. There are dual citizens, U.S. Israeli, who grow up in Israel and serve in the IDF. I certainly think that shows they're more loyal to Israel. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's weird. Here we go. Denying the Jewish people their right to self-determination by claiming the existence of the state of Israel is a racist endeavor. It's awfully specific, but I guess calling Israel racist is, I don't know, weird. You're criticizing a government. I don't understand. Applying double standards by requiring of it a behavior not expected or demanded of any other democratic nation. We're talking about a country here, not a people. That's crazy. Using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism, claims of Jews killing Jesus. Yet Matt Gaetz laid out the biblical passages that say that. I'm not a Christian. I'm not saying I agree with those passages, but it basically says those Bible statements could not be read on a college campus. Here we go. Drawing comparisons of contemporary Israeli policy to that of the Nazis. That's a government, not a religion. That is insane. That is saying if your opinion of Israel is that they are like the Nazis, you're an anti-Semite. What does that have to do with Jews as an ethnicity or religion? It has everything to do with government policy. So if Netanyahu came out and took a dump on the floor and you were like, the policy of, if he says it's hereby our policy to dump on the floor, you'd be like, that's bad. They go, well, you're an anti-Semite. What? No, I'm criticizing one guy doing bad things. This is nuts. Holding Jews collectively responsible for the actions of the state of Israel. I agree. Like that. This is what I can't stand. There are people who are like, it's not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. They say that. And I agree. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel. That's insane. And then when I say something like, and this happens all the time, on Twitter, on YouTube, I'll say something like, Israel has a right to defend itself. And then people start saying Little Hat Tim and he got the call and Goy and Shabos and all of these things. And I'm like, gee, it's really interesting how I'm talking about the military campaign and policy of a nation and you immediately jump to Jew. So I agree with that. I agree with there are people who conflate these two things. The problem is this HolocaustRemembrance.com is telling you you can't criticize Israel because it's anti-Semitic. And then you have these other people who call you pro-Jew if you say something like Israel is a country that can defend itself, when that has nothing to do with Jews. It's a government. So long as both sides want to conflate the two are conflated. But I'll give a shout out to the Daily Wire crew because they've all called it out. Matt Walsh, Jeremy Boring, even Ben Shapiro have said, this bill is nuts. This is ridiculous. And I agree. But look how they come after Matt Gaetz on this one. That's absolutely nuts. It's apparently not going to make it to the Senate, and so it's mostly virtue signaling. But that Elise Stefanik supported this. It's just, have a backbone. She's not the only one. I'm not trying to single her out. It's just one that I saw. But shout out to Matt Gaetz for standing up and saying free speech. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.